Well, aloha kakahiaka. I'm Peter Kate. I'm your host for today, and you are joining the pregame show of the Aloha Friday Real Estate Show and on the Aloha Friday Hawaii Real Estate Show. If you're not watching this live, meaning that it's not February 5th at 10 o'clock or actually 9:55 Hawaii time, you are watching the pre-recorded version, and you can skip forward about 5 minutes or so if you want to miss the pregame show where we kind of warm up and make sure everything's working and our mics are good and all of our show makeup is on. So I'm going to introduce you guys, y'all, to my two friends for today. Normally we have Heidi. Heidi. Heidi is normally with us on Fridays as well, but she's got another engagement last minute that she had to do today. So I am here today with my good friends, Dylan Nonaka. How's it going, Dylan?
Good morning. How's it going, everybody? How's it going, Peter, Scott?
We got Dylan Nonaka from the Big Island. We got Scott Starsman, who's on Oahu. How's it going, Scott?
Good. It's a perfect day, man. It's not a cloud in the sky, and the temperature is absolutely spectacular.
We kind of got, I'm going to talk about that a little bit on the news side, but boy, we had like a whole bomb of like massive rain and kind of wind rain and, light destruction during the whole week. And we kind of came out of it. All right. Hey, so let's do our little Aloha shirt warm up here. Dylan, what are you wearing today?
Sig Zane, like always. This is green with a brown kalo print on it. So one of my favorites.
So you were mentioning that the weather today in Kona is like really, really awesome. What's it like today?
We've had like a week, just like you were talking about, of like rainy weather and stuff. And just today is like that first clear. There's no fog because the winds are kind of weird. And it's just a beautiful day. And I was just thinking that before I came in here and sat down, I should move all my stuff outside. But it would be a big move. It's to move all the microphone and lighting and all this stuff outside. But yeah. I gotta take a picture next time we can put on the screen.
Yeah, really. There you go. Yeah, we need like a Dylan cam, on Nonaka cam or something like that. And of course, Jim is as reliable as the time, as reliable as so. How's it going, Jim? Great to see you, buddy. Welcome. Thanks for joining us, Scott. What's I was marking was saying how remarkably clear and crisp your camera view looks today. What's going on over there, Scott?
Yeah, the temperature's crisp and clear, and man, I think I woke up yesterday and went out in the hallway, and I was like, oh man, I'm freezing. And I look at my phone, I laughed. It was like 61 degrees, and I just chuckled. I'm like, oh man, I'm a poor soul. Those people on the mainland are at 0-degree temperatures. I can't handle anything in the low 60s. I had to put socks on and turn my ceiling fans off. That's about as bad as it gets over here. But this is I got to tell you about this one. This is one of my least favorite Aloha shirts. It's a ring spooner. It looks like a Hawaiian quilt, and a lot of these are flowers and things. It also looks like snowflakes, and I wore it since it snowed up top Mauna Kea. I figure, it's the perfect Aloha shirt for today's show. It looks like Hawaiian snowflakes to me.
Well, that's a good pick, and to your point about the weather. So Chris is joining us in aloha and greetings from Menominee, Michigan, where we just got 9 inches of snow and bitter cold. Yeah, we all know. I was born in the Midwest, and I can't say I can't say I'm fond. I can't say I'm fond of it. And Mark is joining. Hey, Mark is a member of the Islander Ohana. So Mark, welcome. And he's single digits in northern Idaho. And Mark will do the best we can to give you a little bit of a taste of the relative warmth over here. Although it is cold. We'll talk about the cold. I got some. We'll talk about the cold in the news. And we got Swamog from Aloha from Fort Worth. Well, aloha indeed. We're glad to have you with us. This is a great morning. Yeah, it's good it's interesting, right? How everything's always relative, right? There's something about it would be kind of cool to see what the science is behind, what we commonly call blood thinning, right? Our blood gets thin when we live in Hawaii, and the warmest day is a super cold day. Tom is telling us that it's from a rainy UK. Hey, Tom, how's it going, buddy? I think, Tom, if I'm not mistaken, we may have gotten a few of your questions that we posted. I can't recall for sure, but welcome from the UK. That's awesome. Great to kind of see you. It's a good fun. One of the neat things of internet, right? We always get to have this sort of worldwide kind of audience. And there's Kinaya. Kinaya, also a member of the Ohana. Great to see you, Kinaya. Welcome back. Austin, Texas, 54, clear and sunny. All right, not too shabby. In fact, we had an Islander Ohana conference on Saturday, and for a few minutes on Saturday, it was warmer in Austin than it was. Austin's noon was warmer than Hawaii's morning, so that was kind of cool. Yep, and Tom saw those. Great, Tom. Yeah, Tom, that video we made a video about, should I save and come to Hawaii, save and come to Hawaii later, or move now, and it's actually quite popular. All right, man. The whole Ohana is coming in, and Megan is coming in, also a member of the Ohana. Great to see you, Megan. And she's giving a shout out to Mark and Kinaya. It's really kind of fun. We get together, the Islander Ohana members. We get together every other Saturday, and we have this kind of really fun conference. Turned out to be so much fun. It's really great. Richard Lancaster, how's it going, Richard? Aloha from Oregon still. Well, hopefully not for long. And Stargazer says it's cold in California. It's like the whole gang's here, like the Friday, the Aloha Friday Hawaii, Ohana and Bernard. How's it going, buddy? In New Jersey. Yeah, 2 feet of snow. Ouch. Okay. All right. Well then, hey, let's get, it is a little bit, as 1 minute past. So the show's kind of officially started already. So, let's get, and let me re-welcome everyone who's just joining us. This is the Aloha Friday Hawaii Real Estate Show, where we talk about all kinds of stuff. And one of the things that we're gonna chat on today is I'm going to have a little news update first. So here's kind of what's going on with the news. It is cold. I'm going to full screen this here. So here is, you're seeing in that photo, there is a shot of the summit at Mauna Kea. I was up there once on a field trip and didn't have as much snow as there is now. But I always thought that was one of the most remarkable things about Hawaii, and that Hawaii, you can actually, one of the most amazing things about the Big Island, right, is you can, legally, technically, you can ski on a snowy day on the side of the mountain, and on that same day you could drive down and hang out at the beach in a bikini or swim trunks, depending on your clothing preferences. But it's really one of the most remarkable things. So it has been cold. If you look at this, zoom in here.
Yeah, I want to mention something about that,
Sure. Yeah, go.
So last week I went to Hilo for lunch with some friends, and as we were driving back, so there's a lot of snow on the mountain last weekend, and so this is like a thing you'll probably not see anywhere else in the United States. But as we were going back over Saddle Road to come back to the Kona side, we made a game out of it, and the kids and I were counting how many trucks had snow in it. So what people do is they go up to the mountain and they shovel snow into the back of their truck and fill the truck up with snow, and then drive back down the mountain, and the kids place snow in their yards down in town. And so there was 11 trucks that we noticed. One truck had a trailer and the truck. So, I mean, they had like a double load of snow coming down the mountain, and you can tell because there's a big mountain of snow in the back of the truck, and there's shovels stuck into the snow. So it's very obvious, and they're leaking water, but that's a very common occurrence, is you bring this, because it's actually hard to play in the snow up there because it's such a high elevation. It's not pleasurable to have a lot of physical activity. So people will load up their truck with snow and then drive down into town and place snow in their yard.
Oh, it's man, awesome. that is hilarious. And look, I've lived in Hawaii since the mid 80s, and I've never heard of, and I've known about the snow and people go up there and ski, but I've never heard about, and it makes total sense right now. You go up there, you get a truckload of snow. And
so if you drive around town on days when there's snow, you'll see people playing snow in their front yards. They're making snowmen in their front yards.
That's hilarious. I never heard about that. That's hilarious. That is what a cool thing. How cool is that, man? That is a couple of shout outs here. We got Robert from, we don't want to hide Scott's beautiful face over here. Hold on a second. There we go. Robert, aloha from California. Hey, Robert. And Jim says 45 and clear and sunny. All right. Hey, 45. People are washing their cars. They're walking around in shorts at 45 degrees in New York City. There's Jeremy from Arizona. Welcome back, Jeremy. Good to see you, buddy. Okay. Jeremy says they do the same thing in Arizona. All right. So it's not just a Hawaii thing. Interesting. Love it. Absolutely. Hey, so back to the weather over here. I want to show you here what we call Burr, super cold in Hawaii. You look at the 5-day forecast here. If you look at the highs and the lows, right, you see the highs are going to be looks like at high 70s, 75, 78, and the lows get down to looks like the coldest one is 62. That's the coldest of all the whole thing, 62, 66. That is what is considered freezing but cold in Hawaii. If it's as Scott was saying earlier, I don't know about you guys. So here, what do you guys do? I've got the long sleeve. Actually, it was really funny. So last night, I wake up at like 1:30 in the morning with literally uncontrollable shaking, uncontrollable shivers, and I just can't stop like shivering. So I put my sweatpants on, put my socks on, put my long sleeve t-shirt on, and the winter comforter, and folded it over myself. So I'm not even like on the bed sheets. I had to do all that to stay warm, and that's what I had to do. Dylan, what do you got? What's your warm weather? What's your cold weather winter suit look like inside the house?
So luckily, I live at some elevation, but it hasn't gotten that bad yet. It is pretty nippy at night, but at most it's sweatpants and a long sleeve shirt. But it's getting there. I think in the next couple of days, it's probably going to get to the point where we're going to have to gear up a little bit more. But yeah, it hasn't been too bad yet, and well, that's because it's always cool too, right? So like the temperature is always cool at night, cooler at night. So when when it gets cooler, it's not as dramatic where I live.
Yeah. Well, and I should mention to everyone, this is all relative. There are no fireplaces. We have no house heaters, and we still leave a few of our windows open. We don't close all the windows.
That's the big thing. When it gets cold, you just close your windows, right? That's basically what you
Not
do.
all of them. You leave a few open just to get some circulation going. Scott, what's your cold weather remedy?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's turn the ceiling fan off, put socks on. The other night when the wind's blowing, it gets to be a little chilly. The other night I was hanging out with some friends, and I don't have anything other than like short sleeve shirts and maybe an occasional long sleeve one. So I have to actually bust out my snowboard jacket and leave it undone, even though it's like overkill. Everything else I have is not sufficient enough because it hardly gets down into these temperatures. And when it does, it's a little uncomfortable.
One of the most wasted articles of clothing I took with me was a coat. I even had a leather jacket, which I love. Was this really cool Harley motorcycle jacket? Nothing, no insulation whatsoever, but never wore it. Never. It was just too much. All right, let's kind of keep moving on with the news over here real quick. So a couple things, real quick note came out is that Hawaii got ranked in the top 10 most COVID restricted states in the U.S. So not a big deal, but what that basically means is if you're planning on taking a trip to Hawaii, if you're planning on coming over, just know that this place is fairly restrictive. I was talking to my cousin the other night, and she asked me about how it was. And I said, the big thing here is everyone just pretty much wears their masks, and depends on what state you're coming from. That may be a little bit of a surprise, or it may not be a surprise. Most businesses are open. I think everything's fairly open, but it does rank as one of the most restrictive states. That there is a big deal. You're wearing your mask all the time. People always wear their masks here. And I have seen some places that, some stories that say some people that have come here have been a bit surprised by how much that is, but it's become a cultural norm now. The other one is United. United is doing a cool thing here. What's been reported is that United will let Hawaii visitors skip COVID-19 tests screenings with conditions. So what they're saying here, what was reported is that the airline now allows travelers headed for the islands who share a valid negative COVID-19 test before boarding a flight to skip document screenings in Hawaii, which often involve waiting in a long line, and begin their trip as soon as they land. I don't have any more details on that, and I recommend that you reach United directly if that's who you're going to be using. Things can change on a daily basis, but it sounds interesting. United's making a play to have you skip the screening process when you land. It's going to be an interesting competitive juggle here for, I guess, who's going to make it easier for people to come to Hawaii. And then finally, I thought was an interesting story I found is that Oakland's airport has a COVID test in a vending machine. Apparently, you walk up to a vending machine, I guess you slide in $149 bills. You put your credit card in for $149, and you get what looks like to be an instant COVID test. So that's a quick roundup of the news today, and we had a good time to talk with Dylan and Scott about the weather stories. So I would say, folks, this is about as cold as it pretty much gets. Hey, just real quick, real fast, Dylan, what is the lowest temperature where you were living that you can remember in Hawaii? Just the number.
Maybe like 56.
56.
It's crazy cold. Yeah, like high
56.
50s. Yeah.
How about you, Scott?
Yeah, it was definitely mid 50s. I'll never forget when I first moved to Hawaii. I was living on the Big Island, and I went up to Waimea. I was living in Puako, which is right at sea level. And after several months, I went up to Waimea and got out middle of the day. Wind's blowing. It was chilly, but because you're at a higher elevation, and I remember going, "Oh man, I'm freezing!" And I knew at that point right there, I'm like, "Uh-oh, I'm in trouble. There's no way I can go back to the mainland without something at that point.
When you're freezing in your low 50s,
when it's probably only 65 when you got off. So.
My lowest story, my lowest number is 59, and it was like burned in my forever burned in my memory. This had to be 1984, 85. It had to be 84. I'm driving down a couple Hulu Avenue, and this was back in '84 when banks used to have those bulbs, those little signs that had like light bulbs on them. Those it wasn't even LEDs; it was light bulbs that would go on and off, and they would show the temperature. And I was driving down, and I saw 59. I thought, wow, it's 59 degrees, and that was the coldest temperature I've ever seen in Hawaii. All right, let's move on. Thanks everybody for that great feedbacks. Let's see. And so, and by the way, real quick, just as a quick mention, is that you want to be giving us I'm going to take your questions. If you submitted a question on the form and you're here, give me a little bit of a shout out, because I'll try to pull up your slide, because I've got it here queued up. Otherwise, you don't need to have a slide, but if you got one, just let me know so I can pull it up, because I've done it already. Otherwise, we're going to give priority to the folks who are here now to put their questions in and just kind of throw them on the chat, and I'll do the best I can to kind of get to them one by one. All right, let's flip into the real estate market update section, and we got Dylan. Why don't you get us started? What's going on in the big, what is notable? What's going on in the market on the big one, and give me a good story over the past 2 weeks.
Well, the headline is definitely a shortage of inventory. Across the board, we have about half as many homes and properties on the sale on the market right now as we normally do. So that in and of itself, decrease in supply is gonna and an increase in demand with the people coming here now that you can travel has caused kind of a frenzy in the market. And I guess, story wise, it's been very difficult to get properties under contract because it is so competitive. And I last weekend wrote 3 offers over asking price, one of them with a $20,000 escalation clause, and we didn't get any of them because there are so many people that are in the market bidding on stuff. And so people are, Scott's been talking about this. I think it was hotter in Oahu, and it's kind of caught up to us here on the Big Island, but people are waiving appraisals and cleanings and stakings and surveys, and everything they can possibly do to make their offer as strong as possible. And so those guys with cash definitely have the advantage and the upper hand right now, because it is extremely competitive. And if you are in the Big Island and you want to sell your property, now is the time. So give me a call, because you have the best conditions possible to sell your house. Nobody's going to ask you to do anything because they don't want you to go with a different offer. So very busy.
That is tempting. Of course, the problem is if you sell, where are you going to go and buy? But if you're looking at if you're in a position to sell, it seems like you can't beat it. Scott, give us the update on what's going on with the Oahu's market, and give me a good story. I want a juicy story, Scott.
We're still having that severely restricted inventory. The inventory levels are back to still 2007 market, which was 1.4 months of inventory, and we had 20% price appreciation back then. So the activity in the single family home side, and now I'm seeing it in the condo side under 700,000 pretty much everywhere except for Waikiki and Kaka'ako. So every segment I try to look at a little trend, something different, because I probably wrote 12 offers in the last 2 weeks, and every single one of them was over asking, multiple offers. I think the lowest one we were competing with had 5 other offers on it. I had a townhouse I wrote in Eva Beach. There were 28 offers on that one. There was this Hawaii Kai home that it was listed at 1.25 million. We came in at 1.3 with an escalation clause and appraisal contingency removal and all this other stuff. 24 offers. We weren't even in the top 15. She had 15 over 1.3. So we got blown out of the water on that one. We just kind of shook our heads, tuck our tail and move on to the next one. But the trend that I'm seeing now, and I wrote down a little bit of this real quick, is so Waikiki under $500,000. It's starting to shrink a little bit, the inventory. So we're starting to see some absorption there, people moving into that market. But once you get over the $500,000 mark in Waikiki, it's definitely slow. You get over $1 million, there's 24 years of inventory. It is dead at $1 million plus in Waikiki. But Kaka'ako, which is the other area that I was seeing some slow activity, under 750,000, there's a little more than 1 month of inventory. So all the inventory, people are starting to move into the condos now because the single family homes have gotten so busy, and people are starting to get comfortable with the more affordable condo side. The higher end range is still slow a little bit, but that's kind of the latest trend that I've noticed out there.
Wow, that's remarkable. I want to give a real quick shout out here to Joanne. Hey, Joanne, welcome. Joanne is also a member of the Islander Ohana, and Joanne Kinaya is here with us and so is Mark. They're all here watching with you as well. So, hey, guys, I had a quick as you guys were talking about this. What came to my mind is has the market, have sellers started doing an auction type of thing? Because it seems to me that if you were to do an auction, you could probably maximize even more than what you're already getting. Scott, what's your sense of, why shouldn't I do an auction? If I had a single family home in a highly desirable area with a perfect, like let's say a great home, perfect desirability, why wouldn't I want to put it out to bid and do an auction on it?
Well, it basically is. That's basically what we're looking at now. And in fact, I'm seeing a lot of this in the marketplace. What the strategy you should be doing, because there's restricted showings anyway with COVID, is you come on the market, you allow showings for, say, a 7-day period, allow everyone to get in, get them the information. This is the date that offers need to be in by, and then we'll review after that. So it effectively becomes an auction at that point. And it helps the buy side be able to not rush to make a decision. It allows them to come in, analyze the property, analyze the info. If you're a good agent, you're going to get the survey put together, the building permit packet, all these various things so that people can review. So when they submit that offer, they're removing contingencies. That it's as tight as can be. And that's where you get the bid ups. And the other thing that I would do, the offers come in, I start looking at the best ones. Then I get on the phone with people and I start massaging people around. Where people got to watch out is the limited service agents in this market. And this just happened to me. We submitted, I couldn't get a hold of anybody. Hey, do you have any other offers? What's going on? They got back to us and said, oh, they chose one. And so that person may have saved on the commission a little, but they lost thousands of dollars in net because that agent on the other side didn't work to get those things bid up where it could have benefited the seller more.
This is where you need this is where experience matters, right? Decades of doing this matters. Dylan, give me, what sort of, why not do, if an auction that's already happening, what do you kind of do to maximize that value?
The exact same thing that Scott's talking about is, I've been recommending to my agents, and I've seen other people do it, that you get everything ready. You prepare for the house to go on the market, because we can't really like pre-market with new ethical standards, but you can have everything ready social media wise. And so the day you put it on the market, you do the blast and you basically show it for 3 to 5 days. And, you tell all of the buyer's agents that will review offers. You release it on Monday, we're going to review offers on Friday, and we'll let you know by Saturday what the decision is. But the key to that is, and I'm seeing, and important for sellers to consider, is to maximize that. I really feel like you almost want to undervalue your property. So if you think the property is worth 700, instead of the conventional wisdom, well, let's price it at 725 or 750, and then we can negotiate down to 700, right? That's the conventional wisdom. But in this type of market, what I'm telling people is, if you think it's worth 700, let's list it at 675, and you'll probably end up getting 750, because people are going to come in and say, wow, this is a great deal. They'll go crazy over it. They'll know that there's 9 other offers, and that emotional aspect gets built into it. And so you almost net more money than you would by listing high and then maybe waiting for a couple of weeks or a month before you get the right offer and then negotiating back down. And you're also going to have the most favorable terms, like Scott is saying. They're going to remove a bunch of asks and concessions because they want to have the strongest offer. So that's, again, why it's super important that you're working with, people want to save money on that commission, but you may save a % or 2 on a listing side commission, but you could be losing out 5 or 6% on your sales price, and net losing 4 or 5% because you didn't market the property properly and get the maximum value out of it.
So go ahead, Scott. You want to say something?
Yeah, I even wrote an offer, actually 2 offers last week, where we even wrote in special terms, buyer will not ask seller for any credits or concessions. You can't get any more blunt than that. And we haven't even done our inspection yet.
Yeah, it's crazy. Go ahead.
And another important thing, we've talked about this in the past, but I'm also seeing now that And we were talking about this pre-show, Scott and I, that there's, a big flood of new agents into the market. Whenever every time it gets hot, you have people, I'm gonna get my real estate license and become a millionaire, right? So that becomes difficult to deal with because you don't have the experience there. And I'm also seeing that, with the good experienced listing agents, they're giving preference to the agents that they know are bringing a credible buyer, that they know they've already pre-screened their financing, that they know they're going to be able to work with and solve issues throughout the process. And so those relationships really matter in this market also, because if all things are equal, price is equal, terms are equal, they're going to go with the agent that they want to work with, that they know is going to have them, is going to do their job and create the smoothest process possible to get that deal closed.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm getting out of this is that, if you're looking at, we're talking to, in the Aloha Friday Hawaii Real Estate Show, we're talking mostly to people on the mainland who are looking at buying a home in Hawaii. But we also get a handful of people that are in Hawaii. And if you're in Hawaii and if you're looking at selling real estate, what you just heard from the guys here that know how to do the job, definitely want to give us a contact. There's a link in the description. Click on it. And if you are selling a home on Oahu, we'd be, or a home in Hawaii, we'll be happy to help you with some great expertise. Let's move on. We got another, our big topic for today is, I want to talk about, which is how long to stay. So this was a great question from Dee Dee from Miami, Florida. And what Dee Dee, let me do it this way. Here we go. So what Dee Dee asked is, she says, when visiting, how many weeks should one go if wanting to experience the vibe? And what order of island hopping should one go? I feel called to Kauai, but my hubby really wants to see the, quote, city Oahu, since we are from Miami. And we're both interested in Kona for my daughter. She loves volcanoes. And we have a friend in Maui. How many weeks and which islands would you suggest seeing first in the order? We are natural organic farmers and in the wellness business coaches in our late 30s. So I thought, Dee Dee, I thought that was a great question. It's an interesting kind of a perspective. I think we've touched on this topic over the previous shows in terms of, how do you, if you're looking at making a move to Hawaii, how do you sample the various islands and what should you go about doing it? So I think you kind of hit it right on the money. And I think, Dylan, you had mentioned something that kind of popped out in my head that you said earlier. What would be your advice for people like Dee Dee who are trying to kind of figure out what island is going to be their place?
Well, I think given this description she gave herself and her family, you should definitely consider the Big Island, or Kauai would work too. If you're leaving Miami for whatever reason, why would you want to go back to a city? That would be my first question. If you like where you're at, then why move? But because that's really what it is. Oahu is, as great as Oahu is, it's a city on an island, just like San Diego or Miami or any other big city in a warm climate. So
yes, it is.
So that's the thing to consider and I think you do have to spend some time. A week maybe minimum, but a couple weeks, especially on an island like the Big Island, where, not only is it the island, but then there's all of the different sub areas of the island, east and west and north and south, and the different climates depending on your elevation. So you really want to dial in what you're most comfortable with and what's most desirable to you. And you do need to spend some time doing that. And then especially when you get like a week like we had this last week with really unusual weather, if you're here for that week, you're going to be like, I don't know if this is where I want to be. It rained every day in Kona, but it never does that. It's like, that's once every couple of years we get a week of rain in Kona. It's very pretty dry most of the time. So definitely you want to put the time in though, because a few days isn't going to do the area justice.
A few days ain't going to do it. Yeah, a couple. Scott, what's your advice for Dee Dee?
Yeah, I think it depends on kind of what the objective is. If the objective is to move over here, and this is probably one of the biggest challenges for anyone that's looking to move here is how to take that first step, which is making the move over. If you're looking at moving over, if you haven't been here before, you need to spend a fair amount of time in these locations and almost get out of tourist mode. Because once you're in tourist mode, everything's wonderful. You're in la la land. It's not reality of how you would live. If you are looking to move over here, you do need to get acquainted with, some of the cultural portions, the traffic portions, the neighborhoods, where on the island that you want to be, and you need to spend some time. If you're familiar with the island already, then you already have a leg up a little bit. And I used to joke when I was bartending at my family's bar on the Big Island. Big Wave Dave and I were running things, and we used to joke. People would come in there, hey, how long are you here on your Hawaii vacation? Oh, 5 days, and we're on 4 islands. Like, oh, how's the airport? Because you're going to spend more time in the airport than you are in either the hotel or your Airbnb.
Yeah.
So you definitely need, and travel in our island, it's going to take you pretty much half the day to begin with. Even though the flights are short, you've got all the hoops you got to jump through and to get the rental car and go get checked in. So I would say at a minimum, you want to do about a week per island. And that's at the bare minimum side. So to move over, if you're looking at moving over to really get acquainted with which island you want to be, I think you're looking at multiple trips unless you can take a significant amount of time out of work or away from your regular life to spend here.
Yeah, a lot of that's a really good point. I think a lot of the things that we've heard from people that buy that are on the mainland and buy in Hawaii, a common story is, oh, I've come there every summer for the past X number of years, and we know this. We go to this one place and we go there every year, and we know it really well. We're going to buy a condo there. A couple of things I would say is one way to get acquainted, and is by, I totally agree. I would say, well, between what Scott and Dylan said, 2 weeks per location would be a really good way to do it. And Scott, to your point, we have actually a program on the Islander Ohana, and I call it the Unvacation, which talks about the not a vacation kind of a thing, and what specific things ought you be doing to experience Hawaii during your unvacation. So we talk about that. I would say at the same time, the other thing I would also recommend, which we've done a bunch of times actually, and was really fun, is you do the 7-day cruise. Now it's 3 or 4 islands in 7 days, and you don't spend time in the airport, you spend time on the ship. But it's a really fun way to do a really quick overview of the islands. It's not a deep dive by any means, but it's a great fun thing. It's 7 days, you enjoy a cruise, and then I would definitely agree to spend a couple weeks at each location and try to get into a more of a residential area. But I would say that is the best way. Is there anything else you guys want to offer?
Yeah, one more thing. So one thing you gotta identify is what is your ideal living situation, and if you want to do organic farming, and you need a certain amount of space to do that, you really want to see what your options are on every island, because you may be just able to rule it out completely if it's not even, unless money is not an issue and budget's not an issue. But if it is, that's one way to narrow your options down, is just get in touch with a good realtor on each island, and it can give you some options, or see if there even are options that fit your needs and your budget, and that can help you focus on where you want to look.
Yeah, excellent. Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, I mean, when I moved out over here in 1999, I didn't even leave the islands for 6 years because every island is so different. I went inter-island to go experience different things because they're so diverse and so different. If you don't know what island you want to be on, you've got to spend some time on each one to figure out the lifestyle that you want.
Yeah, they're definitely very, very, very different. And we have a quick comment here, so I just thought I'd kind of throw this up because it's fun. Paul says, "Don't move to Hawaii." Well, Paul, Hawaii's not for everyone, and we made that abundantly clear. But I would say that if you don't want to move to Hawaii, this is the wrong channel. You're on the wrong show. You are definitely on the wrong show. Again, Hawaii's not for everyone, but if you're not into Hawaii, this is not the channel for you. I don't even know how you ended up over here, but God bless you. We're glad that you're here, if you're still here. Hey, gang, a real quick plug here. If you're not in the Ohana, you need to be a part of it, livinginhawaii.com. Most likely you found your way here because you get the newsletter that comes out every Wednesday. But if you're not on the newsletter list, you want to get on that list, there's a link in the description. Click on that link and get on the newsletter, and you could be a part of what we're doing over here. It's not just this. We have the Islander Ohana, which is a formal program to guide you through coming to Hawaii, and we have shows, and we have YouTube channels. We have all kinds of good stuff. Oh, Jeremy's got a quick update here for us. Let's see. Jeremy says, coming for 5 weeks in June, July to feel it out in Maui. I am hoping not to use the ticket home. That's the Scott approach. All right, Jeremy. Well, make sure you connect with Heidi when you get into Maui, because I'm sure she'll be here and probably have a coffee with you. I would think. Oh, there's Tina Mahina. Love this. Miss you, Dylan. Tina, old friend. Good. Dylan, you want to say hi to Tina?
Hey, what's up, Tina? Miss you,
Tina,
too.
what's up, Tina? So Tina's a good friend of a good mutual friend of Dylan and I, and we go way back. Geez, 10 easy. Well, me 10 years easy with Tina. Great, awesome, great to see you here, Tina. That you landed.
Hey,
Tina,
Oh,
no, go ahead. No.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to mention. I don't know if that comment about don't move to Hawaii was from somebody not wanting to move here, or somebody here that doesn't want people to move here. Maybe we should we should
Paul, you want
address
to
that.
clarify that? Yeah, Paul, would you clarify that, Paul?
If that's but if that's the case, that's, I think, a common misconception is that our net population growth is pretty low because there are just as many people moving away as moving in, and the people
More
moving
actually,
away, I mean, are a lot of locals, but then there are a lot of people who move here for a few years and then move back, right? So that, I think, that's a common misconception that, like, there's people just overcrowding Hawaii and moving in droves, and there are a lot, but there's also a lot of people moving away. So our net population growth it's less than the average in the United States in most places.
I'll tell you over the past few years, we've had a net loss. It's been a net loss over the past few years. So, Paul, maybe you can kind of clarify with this. Are you telling because you don't want, now that I'm here, please don't you come to Hawaii, or I don't think you should go there. Anyway, I was going to say, thinking about Tina? I forget. Anyway, okay. So great to see Tina here. And Megan, who is also a member of the Islander Ohana. What tips do you have for potential buyers? Your market update was a bit discouraging. Yeah, sorry, Megan, but I know the reason why you're a part of our Ohana here is because you hear it straight. Scott, why don't you tell us what tips do you have for potential buyers?
Give me a ring and I'll get you into a place.
That's the tip.
But I actually wanted to I know what we're talking about is a snapshot and can be discouraging right now, but I think the overall arching idea is, and this is a quick summary, but when interest rates dropped, it created such an affordability in housing in the market, from a mortgage payment standpoint. And what happened, and I did it, and all my investors did it, and a ton of people did it. They cash out, refinanced other homes they had. So they're sitting on all this capital. Now that capital has to be put into the marketplace. Our price increase right now hasn't even eaten up that affordability that was created. So our prices are going to continue to go, not just to catch up to where the prices would have been if interest rates didn't drop for the mortgage payment, but you got to put this capital into the market and invest it somewhere. So I see this price increase going and this market going for about 3 years here, probably. And in doing so, so if you're looking at 10% plus price appreciation per year, you're buying at a discount right now. That's why people are coming in, and that's why they're paying a premium, is because they're hedging that. For one, they want to put their money somewhere, and two, they want to be in Hawaii, and then they feel like prices are going to be up. So that's kind of the idea that you have to take and look at with this market is you're buying in a discount right now.
Yeah, awesome. Dylan,
just to illustrate that, I just did a video on this last week to illustrate that in real dollar terms, right? So if you were going to buy a $700,000 house at 5% interest, which was common a few years ago, still a good interest rate, your monthly payment would be like $2,700 a month to borrow that $700,000. In today's market, with interest rates under 3%, that same $700,000 will cost you like $1,800 or $1,900 a month in a mortgage payment. So it changes the amount of money that you can borrow. So now for that same $2,700 a month, you can borrow like $880,000. So it increases your buying power by $180,000, and it doesn't increase your monthly cost at all. So that's caused a huge increase in demand, and people that maybe were at a lower level budget can bump up to a higher level, and that's creates additional demand in the market for those higher priced homes.
So what's the advice to Megan? Hurry up and buy it now.
Well, the advice is to put yourself in the best position possible, which you're already doing. If you're in the Ohana, you're doing the right thing. But you want to make sure your financing is in place. You're saving money for as big of a down payment as possible, because that could make the difference between somebody putting down 10 and somebody putting down 20%, or somebody putting down 30%. If you're up against an all cash offer, it's going to be hard to beat them. But at the same time, you want to have as much of an advantage as possible, and then be as prepared to buy as possible, so you're not second guessing, and you're ready to pull the trigger when the time comes. So it's a tough market for buyers. We're not going to lie. It's a very tough market, but that could change. I mean, that's real estate's a dynamic environment, and we were talking 6 months ago. We were in the dumps 6 months ago. Nothing was happening. It was we were way down, and then look where we're at now. So who knows where we're at 6 months from now.
Things are always changing, but yeah, it's that. Scott, you're going to throw in another comment here?
Yeah, it's almost like coming to visit the state. The upfront planning that you do is key to being able to get an accepted offer. You have to get all your ducks in a row, and you got to work with someone who knows how to get creative with contracts and has those relationships with other agents out there to be able to get into first position.
So Megan, I would say you're in the Ohana, and that's what we one of the sort of the great benefits of that is that we know that you're serious about Hawaii, and that's why Scott is here and Dylan is here and Heidi is here as well. Even though Heidi's not physically here today, she is here. She is here to help out. And hey, Scott, here's something for you here. Bernice says, I like Scott. He called me in California. He will call you. All right, Scott. Of course he'll call you. Of course he's going to call you. Scott's one of us. And here, I'll give you folks. So when I talk about the Ohana, there's two levels of Ohana. There's the free Ohana, and then there's the serious Ohana. And I just put this in the right. I just put this in the chat what the serious Ohana is all about. You folks want to go check that one out, and I got all the details there of what this is. We have a cohort, and we're going through the process right now. We're going to have another cohort open up in spring. So if you're serious about Hawaii and you want kind of first class treatment, this is what you're going to want to do. All right, that was a great topic. Thanks, guys. It's always the coolest to get you guys feedback on that. All right, let's move on over here. So we get a bunch of questions that are related to insurance. So I'm going to rattle through a few and then we're going to circle back. So here's one from Jamie from Cleveland, who says, hey, I know real estate is cheaper in cities like Pahoa on the Big Island. Is it really dangerous to live in volcano zones? There were no casualties during the last eruption about a year or so ago. I think lava moves slowly down the mountain. Can you get, and then number two is, can you get housing insurance in those areas, and is it expensive? That's one. Here's another one from Sarah in Vermont. He says, hey, if you're located in an officially designated tsunami zone, does that affect property insurance? And then finally, from Los Angeles, the question is, hey, is home insurance high in Honolulu due to volcanoes? What about other natural disasters? What about flood insurance, hurricane insurance? How is this all affected? So the big theme here is in, how does Hawaii's natural disasters or natural variances can affect housing insurance? So Dylan, why don't we start with you? Why don't you kind of hit up the big on pieces, and Scott will go over to you kind of what are the things that you got to think about on Oahu and Maui, for example. So go, Dylan.
The short story is no. It's not. Well, let me address cheaper in Pahoa. So, in my opinion, it's not cheaper to live in Pahoa because it's near the volcano, and it is geographically near the volcano. But the Pahoa area, most of it where people live is lava zone 3. So it's not even lava zone 2. And lava zone 1 is where the actual flows are. So in lava zone 1, you want to avoid that. I would not let you buy there. You can if you want to, but that's not where you want to be, because that's where Leilani Estates was and where this recent eruption happened. So the volcano people are pretty smart in predicting where that lava potentially is going to go. 30% of the island is in lava zone 2. So it's very safe. There hasn't been flows in hundreds of years. It shouldn't be a deterrent. Insurance is not more expensive. In general, a $300,000 house, $300,000 to $500,000 house, your insurance is going to be around $1,500 a year. So there isn't, and this is important to understand, there is not anything called lava insurance. Like, you can't get additional coverage for lava per se. There is all other perils insurance. It's called AOP, and it's an overarching coverage. It's like any act of God destroys your house, you're covered. And that's the insurance that you want to have. It's not a huge expense in addition to what normal insurance costs. You're still going to be paying around that like $1,500 a year. But that's the insurance where everybody who had that lost their homes in the flows did get paid. It was people who declined that. And that's another important thing, is make sure you really understand what your insurance policy covers, because some people just pick the cheapest coverage and they don't have any idea what's actually in their insurance coverage. So you want to be smart about that. You definitely want to talk to a local, just like a local broker, a mortgage broker, or a local realtor. You want to talk to a local insurance broker, because if you get a quote from, State Farm or Progressive or one of those national companies, a lot of times the prices are higher, but the local companies work with folks at broker and are familiar with Hawaii, and the insurance prices are not crazy here. On tsunami insurance, you will need flood insurance if you're in a flood zone, regardless if it's a tsunami flood zone or if it's a regular runoff flood zone. And so on the Big Island, for example, we're very steep. So the tsunami zones are really small. I mean, it's really like, 100 feet in from the shoreline, and you're not affected by the tsunami zones. So although you'll need flood insurance, if you're buying near the water, that close to the water, a lot of times whatever that cost isn't going to hurt you because you're already paying $1 million+ bucks. So if you're paying, a couple $1,000 more for insurance, it shouldn't necessarily be something that breaks your bank account because you're probably not affording a house there in the first place. So.
Great, great information, Dylan. Really appreciate it. Makes complete sense to me. Just a really quick thing on what Dylan, what you mentioned related to the a lava zone. You said your thing was you stay away from lava zone 1. Anything
Yes.
other than lava zone 1 is fine. So that's kind of what you want to know.
And there's
again,
very limited property that you can buy in lava zone 1. I mean, there are some very old subdivisions that should have never been built, but I mean, it's to find a property in lava zone 1 is hard to begin with.
Hard to begin with. And then again, this is why you want to hang out with a local expert who knows what they're doing. I mean, why would you want to kind of have to figure this out yourself when you got people like Dylan who's good?
And an important consideration is people will call me and say, well, I only want to be in lava zone 5 or higher, right? Because there's 9 lava zones, but really 2 through 9 are like the same. It's like, it doesn't make any difference. So you're putting an arbitrary restriction on your search when lava zone 4 and 3 are not any greater. Yes, there's geological potential that those areas have a higher potential for a lava flow. But again, if you're worried about that, I mean, the chances are so small that there's so many other things. You're much more likely to die driving to work in your car or getting hit by somebody not paying attention than a lava flow. So
or you're more likely to have your house smashed by an alien spaceship or
absolutely.
by a
meteorite or something.
By a
right?
meteorite, yeah.
And that's important to note too, that about lava being dangerous. I'm not aware, and I could be incorrect about this, but I'm not aware of any casualties ever with any lava flow we've ever had in modern times. So they are very slow. People evacuate. I mean, lots of property damage, but I'm not aware of any casualties.
I've heard of people moving houses wholesale to get out of the lava zone. They knew the lava was creeping.
There are people who do stupid stuff and go look at the lava when they shouldn't. They get hurt, but it's not because they were living there and the lava overtook their house. So
how's that go? We can't
fix
rule
stupid.
out can't fix stupid. Excellent. Hey, Scott. So Scott, give us the scoop kind of from your angle that's a little more centric to Oahu. Is there even volcano insurance problems on Oahu, and what other kind of natural disasters? What do you have to be thinking about if you're buying on Oahu?
Yeah, you don't have to worry about any of the volcano zones or lava zones here on Oahu.
No such thing, right?
Factor. Yeah, it's only on the Big Island. So here on Oahu, if you can bring up the slide about the tsunami portion. So you can actually be Waikiki. All of Waikiki is a tsunami inundation zone. But part of Waikiki, part of those areas, you don't have to be in a flood zone necessarily to be in a tsunami inundation zone. And in fact, the project that I developed in Hauula, we were not in a flood zone 200 feet from the ocean, but because we're that close to the ocean, we were in a tsunami evacuation zone or inundation zone. And if you want protection from something that may happen never, it's so rare, then you would want to get flood insurance through FEMA. And that can be fairly expensive. I mean, if you're in a flood zone, I know some people's premiums are $5,000 a year for flood insurance, and the coverage is only up to $250,000 for the structure, and then $100,000 for any personal items. So you're limited on what your coverage is anyway, and you're going through the government, the federal government, FEMA. The other aspect, you can buy something from like Lloyd's of London that's an add-on, but you don't necessarily need even flood insurance if you're in a tsunami inundation zone. So therefore, it doesn't really affect the fire portion of the homeowner's insurance. The other aspect is insurance here in Hawaii for homeowners insurance more expensive than on the mainland? It all comes down to, so there's an insurance commissioner or director that insurance companies have to go to be able to change anything within how they charge customers for their insurance. And is it more expensive here? Yeah, probably a little bit, not a ton, but essentially all these factors they look at. What's the risk? What's the risk for hurricane? What's the risk for fires? What's the cost of building here is going to be more expensive because you have to ship your materials here from either the mainland or from somewhere else, because we're out in the middle of the Pacific. So they factor in, they got algorithms and things the insurance companies do. They factor in all these components that make up the insurance. It's not going to be vastly different than the mainland. It probably will be a little more expensive, but for example, my Kapahulu project, where I have a brand new home on it, I think we're at about $1,500 for homeowners and hurricane insurance for the year. And the hurricane portion is the bigger portion of that we're carrying, and that's brand new construction.
Thanks, guys. That's a great overview of the insurance. I hope that that answers all those insurance questions as about as comprehensively as you're going to get on this channel. Let's kind of move on to our next segment over here. This is called Diamonds and Deals, and so here's where we have a chance to where I've asked Scott and Dylan and Heidi to put together sort of properties that they want to highlight, things that are either diamonds or like amazing aspirational kind of properties that we dream of, at least most of us, and or deals. Hey, this is a really good deal, and sometimes we have both. Sometimes we have a diamond and a deal. So let's get into this one. This is in Maui, so we're going to skip that. That's Heidi, and so here we go. This is a Kaneohe townhouse, 3-bedroom, 2 baths, at $699. Scott, looks beautiful. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, one of my favorite complexes in Kaneohe. This is actually Pohakea Point. There's Pu'uali'i. There's 3 associations or almost three complexes, multiple phases that all come in under one master association. This one happens to be Pohakea Point. When you buy in here, you get the use of 3 different pools. You get a walking path. There's a lot of open land, a lot of mature trees, so it doesn't even feel like your standard townhouse or condo complex. And with this unit, this is one of my favorites. Renovated. You got a 165 square foot lanai that looks all the way down. You can see in the distance. That's all Kaneohe Bay. You see the Kaneohe sandbar. You can see the Kualoa out in the distance there. You'll get rainbows that come across when it's raining, but 165 square foot lanai. Imagine morning coffee sitting on your lanai here, or watching the sunset go over the mountains, having an evening cocktail. It's listed at $699,000. It's actually priced pretty well. 3-bedroom, 2 bath, about 1,100 square feet. The maintenance fee is about $850 a month to kind of give perspective, and it is 2 parking. But you're right in the heart of Kaneohe town, but you're tucked away in this area called Lilipuna, and it's really quiet, but you could actually walk out of the complex and pretty much walk to Windward Mall if you wanted to. I love this unit. I think it's priced really well, and it really gives that Hawaii vibe, from that lanai.
I mean, that lanai. So that shot is from the lanai of the unit that's for sale. Is that right?
Yeah, they actually have a really neat shot that wasn't as good that I couldn't put in here, but it literally had a rainbow going across the sky. It's pretty good job they did on marketing this.
I mean, there's actually, if you look closely, there is a little, looks like there's a rainbow kind of in one of the mountains. I'm not too sure, but anyway, regardless, that is a stunning view. I mean, that is just a drop dead gorgeous view of Kaneohe Bay. Like you said, there's a sandbar that comes up seasonally in the middle of that bay. I think there's nothing more beautiful to me than the view of the Ko'olau mountain range, especially at the right time in the morning where the sun is just like beaming against those mountains, almost the way you're seeing it here, and lights them up. And look, and so Tina's our local girl here. Tina's on Oahu, and she says, yeah, it's an amazing property. It really is, Tina. Thanks for throwing that in. Gorgeous property, Scott. And you also mentioned another thing that you mentioned by the by, which is kind of not terribly common here, which is it's got 2 parking stalls. So wow, cool. Thinking about this one myself right now, Scott. Okay, so Dylan, let's see. Next up, we've got, what do we got here? We got crazy oceanfront on Ali'i Drive, 6-bedroom, 6 bath, 5.5. Wow, Dylan, what is this? You're muted.
Yeah, what a stunner! Just like sitting right there, your pool, looking right over the water. That's actually a pretty good surf spot called Alakalas, and it's
looks like it looks good.
Yeah, and when it's big, it's real nice. And you actually, it's not very crowded because you have to park out on the street and then walk down to it. So there isn't like any parking real close. It's not a far walk, but it's not like one of those common areas where you have a beach park next to it. So you kind of got to know where it is, and you can't really see it from the road because you have these homes that front it. So super cool location, right on Ali'i Drive, right outside the heart of Kailua town. And this house is just, you know, huge. I mean, huge 6-bedroom, 6-bath house. You can see the living room in the bottom corner there that just looks out, opens up, the whole wall opens up with pocket doors out into the pool and the ocean. And then it's got like a home theater in it. I mean, all kinds of stuff. So I just saw this, and, you know, Lee Drive is very, there's a lot of homes on it, but there's not that many homes on it, right? So it's a really special place to live. There are no HOAs, there are no, you know, association fees or anything like that. So you can really do what you want, and just a super special place, and you're right there on the ocean.
You know, as you're talking about this, I'm looking at it like, man, you know, there's those Hawaii properties are just, there's just something, not something about it, but because of the mildness of the weather and the architecture, you know, allows these sort of, you look at that lower right hand corner there, that shot there where you've got this big, huge open area from the living room. You know, the homes, the architecture, the possibility of the architecture makes Hawaii homes just really stand out, like just like nothing else. I mean, there's other places that are arguably as beautiful, but because of Hawaii's perfect weather, you could design a home that's essentially completely open, which really you know, it's hard to do that place anywhere else in the world.
I sold a home a couple of years ago that had a the main section of the home had a hole in the roof, like maybe a 12-foot by 12-foot hole, and a koi pond. So when it would rain into the house, down into the koi pond. But because of the way it was designed, you know, the rain would just fall straight down because it, you know, wouldn't blow back and forth. It was just amazing. I mean, just the coolest. You know, so you're sitting there watching TV and it's raining, and the rain is coming through your roof right into your koi pond. You know, it's 10 feet away from where the living room is and the kitchen. It's so cool.
So crazy. That is so crazy. Unbelievable. And Tina agrees with us on the Kaneohe. Yeah, almost any home in Kaneohe, you get amazing views of the ko'olau. Very, very true, Tina. Yeah, absolutely. Scott, you want to, so is there anything that you want to add about that?
Oh, no, I just showed one the other day where the tree is literally, you're on the inside and the tree's coming out of the slab up through the ceiling. They have this, they basically had this massive copper flashing that the water would funnel down, run down the tree and feed the roots within the house. And I was looking at this going, okay, termites, issues. Even if you cut the tree out, when the roots go to die, they're going to settle. Your slab's going to settle. It gave new meaning to bringing the outdoor elements to the inside. Not one that I think you really want.
It's just so bananas, so bananas. As long as we're talking about like sort of homes, I would, if I could build a home from scratch, the kind of home I would build would be one where there would be basically no walls. I would want to have like my property. I would put like let's say 6-foot high rock walls around the property, which would be the walls, so to speak, of the house. And then the house itself would have no walls at all. I would have like, you know, poles inside the house, and then having like those sliding doors around all the way around, like 360, right, all around the house. So if you wanted to, you could completely open up the house, and it's just basically a tent, a canvas tent essentially. But you know, when it rains, you know, you can close up the windows. That would be like the killer house for me. So Karen from Limberhorn, but in Waimea. Karen, what do you mean but in Waimea? But in Waimea is beautiful too. It is. Waimea is actually my favorite place on the Big Island. Love Waimea. Fill us in, Karen. I want to hear more about what you're trying to say here. So okay, let's folks, got any questions? We're coming up on we got only a few minutes left. So I think we got time for maybe one or two more questions at most. I haven't gotten any from you folks, so we're going to move on with our little planned out slides over here. So Dylan, I gotta talk about Dylan. You gotta fill us in about this koki frogs. I remember there was one. So koki frogs on the Big Island, and this is from Sharon, and she goes, I'd like to know more about the koki frogs on the Big Island. If I move to the dry side, would I be able to avoid the loud noise? Since this is audio, could you play a recording sample of the sound? Sharon, I can't play one, but if you folks just do a Google search, a YouTube search for koki frogs, you'll hear them all over the place. You know, then I think about the koki frog, and I remember that one time when you and I were having a conference call, and it was like late at night, and you were at your home, and this koki frog was on, and it was like screeching. It was like hitting the microphone in like the wrong way, and it was like screeching. It was like nails on chalkboard, at least over the phone. But I also heard that some people really like the sound. So what's the deal with koki frogs on the Big Island, Dylan?
So koki frogs are just a little bit of background. So koki frogs are frogs that are native to Puerto Rico that came here with nursery plants. So like when the big box stores started coming here in the 90s, and they would bring, you know, their garden departments it was a perfect distribution for coqui frogs because they would bring the plants from Puerto Rico and then people would pick them up and they'd take them home and it went all over the island. So they proliferated pretty quick. And they do like the east side more because it is wetter, but they're pretty much everywhere on the island unless you're at a pretty high elevation or you're like south or north where it's really dry and they don't do very well. So part of it is where you live. Also, a lot of neighborhoods have like coqui associations where they go and fight the coqui frogs. So there's some natural remedies like hydrated lime and citric acid that you can spray and kill them. And so if you stay on top of it, you can keep the populations down. There's not very much noise. The big consideration, like my house, they're around my house, but I've cleared all of the vegetation around my house, so there isn't really anything 30 feet. Anywhere closer than 30 feet to my house. So although I can hear them, it's not a bother because they're pretty far away. And then as long as you're in the house at night and the doors are closed, you can't really. It's not a big nuisance, but it's definitely a consideration if they are noisy on the east side. It can be really, really loud if you live in like the Pahoa area where it's really densely vegetated. I've heard estimates that there can be 1 million of them in an acre is what the University of Hawaii estimates.
But million in an acre?
Something crazy like that.
Moly.
Yeah, because they're tiny, right? They're these little tiny frogs that fit on a quarter. I mean, they're not very big. But it's funny. I always tell this story about this was years ago, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, but there was a guy that ran for office and he was in a primary, and the guy that he was running against was a very well-known, kind of person that was kind of a shoe-in for that seat. But the other guy ran on a coqui frog platform. His platform was he was going to fight coqui frogs and get money from the state to help us fight coqui frogs. And everybody thought it was a joke, and he ended up winning like 60-40. Like it wasn't even close. And it was really showed that was something that was really important to that Hilo community was coqui frogs, and nobody really saw it coming. But it's definitely a concern for a lot of folks. It's not for kids. That's a funny thing, right? It's a generational thing. Older people, it drives them crazy. My kids don't understand why it's a big deal because they've known nothing but coqui frogs, right? So it's one of those things where in 50 years, coqui frogs are going to be a non-issue because everybody who's here, grew up with them, and it's just but there's crickets in other places. You may live by railroad tracks or traffic noise. I mean, some people think it's peaceful and they like going to sleep to them. So it just depends on the person.
Well, that's my understanding, if I'm not mistaken. And these are from Puerto Rico. They're from Puerto Rico, right?
Yeah, and the problem is they did so well here because they have no natural predators. Right? Puerto Rico has snakes and other amphibians that eat them, birds that eat them, and here there's no, like most of our invasive species, they don't have any natural predators, so they just go crazy and breed like crazy. And I feel like they're getting bigger because like when I find them now, they're like, they're twice the size of what I remember them being when they were little tiny guys. And so I don't know if that's feeding into it or not, but they're morphine.
I always wondered how is it that we can have how can we have endangered species that are being hunted to extinction, if you will, and yet we have a proliferation of coquis. I mean, I would think that that doesn't make sense to me. So like, why not just have a bounty and pay $10 a coqui? $10. So you have people who can, who will make million, and I would want to not give away, but I'd want to pay out millions of dollars to people, right? To wipe out the coquis, just like they, we're apparently wiping out.
Or we got to make them a delicacy, right? Just Kona coquis or whatever, like Kona coffee.
Like escargots, coquis or something
deep
like
fried
that.
Coqui frogs. I mean, there's got to be something we can do with them,
Scott, you want to add anything in on this?
Oh no, dynamite comes in small packages. Those things are teeny, but man, they are loud. They really project.
I couldn't believe it that one night when we had that call, Dylan. It was just like the frequency or whatever, but it was just like I was talking to you and it was like my ear was hurting. So anyway, okay, look, we got room for a quick one. Let's see. So Joyce says, I live in the UK, putting up plans to relocate to Hawaii really soon. Do you know who I could reach out to help me get started? I put the best thing I can do for you, Jody, if you're serious about it. I'll put the link back there again. You want to join the Ohana, you want to get on the newsletter. If you're looking at buying real estate, Scott and Dylan and Heidi are here. That's definitely what you want to be doing. Big advice on that. Richard, save the question till late. Last month, my wife passed away. Sorry to hear that, Richard. Truly, may her memory be eternal. We had the dream to get property on the Big Island and build off grid. Yep, that is a lot of off grid. Dylan, that Big Island has attracted a lot of off grid kind of peoples. Dylan, do you just do property on the bingo or also just land? Dylan does it all, right, Dylan?
I actually do a lot of land. I actually prefer land because it's way less complicated. But I also know how to do due diligence on land, and that's something that's important that I talk to people about. Is not all land is created equal. I think we've talked about this in the past. The prices can vary because of uh, ability to develop, availability of utilities, access. There can be all kinds of issues. So you really want to talk to me if you want to get in touch, and we can talk about buying land.
Yeah, definitely. Let's the experts are right here, and it's such a blessing. All right, it's time to kind of bring this to a close. Let's bring up our closing thought over here. Normally Dylan starts out this closing thought, but I'm going to mix it up a little bit here. So Scott, what is your closing thought for everybody today on Friday, this Aloha Friday?
Always expect the unexpected. This past week, actually the past 2 weeks, was crazy rain and wind-driven rain and high winds and damage, around the island in certain places. And then now, like, it's not even the palm trees aren't even moving. There's no wind. It is absolutely perfect day. It doesn't get any better than that. So always expect the unexpected. I always say, I also plan for the worst, hope for the best.
There you go. Excellent. Thanks, Scott. Dylan, what's your closing thought for today?
I had a coach that used to say, to get what you've never had, you got to do what you've never done. And always like that, where you got to push yourself outside of your boundaries and be uncomfortable sometimes. And sometimes making a move like to Hawaii or buying property for the first time, I tell people, it's uncomfortable, but if you want to get to the next level, it's just the first step, and you got to do what's uncomfortable in order to get to that next level.
Dylan, you did not disappoint. I love that Dylanism, or from the coach. To get what you've never had, you've got to do what you've never done. Is that it? I love that.
Yep.
That is excellent. And we got a thanks from Richard. Yeah, Richard, we are here, buddy. Don't hesitate. I guess my closing thought is to savor the moment. Savor the moment. Whatever the moment is that you've got, whether it's a bad moment or a good moment, it's a moment. Savor it. If it's a great moment, savor it with no expectation as to what's going to happen in a few minutes after this moment. Now, if it's a bad moment, it'll be over too. Savor that. It's going to change. It's not going to be here forever. Both of the things, the good moments and the bad moments, aren't here forever. Savor them. And I think with that, this has been another great show. As usual, I want to thank my good friends Dylan Nonaka, who's on the Big On, and Scott Startzman, who's on Oahu. You folks have any questions, you're looking for real estate, click on the links in the description. Serious about Hawaii, you want to get on that Ohana and get on the registration. We're going to have our next cohort's going to be starting in the spring. With that, I'm going to bid you all a big aloha. Have a great week, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Aloha everybody.
Everyone.